Today's guest traded in the wrestling ring for the sidelines of the football field. She's the Spitfire Jade.
And some things never change. I was one of the smallest in WoW, and I'm still one of the smallest. I'm out there on the football field with guys who are 6'7". Nothing's changed.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Mike Grand Show. And today's special guest is from WoW, Women of Wrestling, Jade. Hey Jade, how are you?
Great, how are you?
Good, we're so happy to have you here. So how we're gonna start things off today is we wanna know your backstory. We wanna know how you got started in the wrestling ring. Have you always been a fan of wrestling?
Actually, I'm kind of different from the other girls. I have a little bit of a dance background, so there were dance background girls, gymnast background girls, a couple girls who were stunt women. So I was one of those, as opposed to being a huge wrestling fan from my youth. My mom wouldn't let me watch it. So I kind of became a fan as I started working on the show. I got into it because David McLean, I worked for him on a show on ESPN2 called Pro Beach Hockey, which is a hockey rink on the sand, and it was like a roller ball, and the ramps were on the side of the rink. And I did some color for him. He's like, "You need to try out for this wrestling show I'm doing." And I was like, okay. One thing led to another, and I became Jade.
Now, when you heard that it was going to be a wrestling show, did you start having any doubts as to whether or not you could actually compete in a wrestling ring or if you would get hurt?
I mean, I had kind of checked it out. As he mentioned that, I was like, I don't know if this is for me. But, I went in and learned how to do it. And yeah, it was not without pain for sure. It just ended up being such a great group of girls that I couldn't walk away. We had so much fun. And I mean, just a different type of challenge physically. I've always been an athlete or a dancer. So I mean, I enjoyed it, but yeah, at first when he said wrestling show, I was like, I don't know if that's for me, but it ended up being something that I loved.
So where was it that the shows were taped, and were you living in that vicinity at the time?
So we taped at the Forum in Inglewood, and I lived in Long Beach at the time and just commuted there. We were there 3 or 4 hours a day, 5 days a week, learning how to fall, learning how to do moves. I mean, they really trained us from the ground up. It was Selena and Peggy, and, we were dedicated. We were there a long time. And, at the time, the Forum was where the Lakers and the Clippers both played. So kind of one of those historic venues. And it was just quite an experience. There was nothing ever like it since then and before then in my life.
What would you say was the hardest part about the training for you?
I mean, I think learning how to fall was the first big thing. Once you got that down, and then it was like learning how to go into the ropes. I mean, we all were like bruised all the way down our side. That when you first start going into the ropes, they're not soft. They look like they give, but they really don't. And the floor of the ring is not soft either. It moves when you land on it, but it's not very forgiving. But then once your body kind of builds up toughness to it, then you get used to it and it doesn't hurt as much, but I don't think it's really good for your body.
Growing up, did you play any sports or were you very athletic?
So yeah, I practiced ballet for over a decade and then rode horses. I was always athletic, participated in skiing. I grew up in Washington State, so and at USC, I was part of the rowing team. So always worked out my entire life, but nothing ever really prepares you for being a wrestler.
When you got into the ring for the first time, what was the feeling like when you actually were able to step in there with a crowd?
I mean, there is nothing like having, and I think our first show, we had about 5,000 fans in there, and just walking out into the ring with people yelling and screaming and signs and just the energy and the atmosphere. I mean, it makes you understand why guys like the Rolling Stones are still going out into huge arenas at 80 years old, because the adrenaline you get from all of that crowd energy, I mean, there's nothing like it. I mean, a live crowd, a live audience is just something that is just a unique experience.
So Jade was one of the smallest wrestlers on the roster. So you did have to face a lot of big girls out there that were, bigger in size than you to compete. So did that motivate you more to want to become better in the ring?
You know, I actually preferred wrestling with bigger girls just because it felt safer. So when a girl was a lot bigger than me, I would, you know, feel like it was more comfortable. I knew that like I wouldn't be missed. I would be able to work with them really well. Um, Also, I always did a lot of the high flying moves. So when I went flying across the ring, I knew that I wasn't going to go flying out or past them. They were going to make sure it was always safe. So I loved doing the high flying moves. Um, those are just always the most fun. It was like the challenge of doing that. One of my uh, the wrestlers that I watched the most when I was doing it was Lita, the Hardy Boys and Lita. Those guys were my favorites to watch. I would, record all of the WWE shows and really watch what they were doing, and that's kind of what I always wanted to do.
And you did have a signature move. Can you tell us a little bit about that? It's a good move.
Yeah, so my favorite, of course, I did all the scissor moves, so that was something that always happened in every match, but the Hurricane Rana was my favorite, and Boom Boom was fantastic. Just learning how to do that was quite an experience. So, yep, off the top rope, and that was, I mean, quite a move, and it looked spectacular. I mean, not to pat myself on the back, but she did all the work, but it was like, I still show that to people, and people are like, what?
And can you tell us a little bit about your character, Jade? How you came up with the concept, and as far as the backstory of the character?
So I was one of the ones where David had already had the whole storyline planned out. So he told me what was going to happen from start to finish. Unfortunately, the first season was kind of self-contained, so we didn't get to go on. But he was one of those people that like, okay, this is what's going to happen. Then this, then this, then this. And so I didn't really have a whole lot of choice in, obviously I built and developed my character, but my storyline was already planned for me from the beginning. So David definitely had his storyline for me set, and that's what we went with. So.
And then tell everybody a little bit about the storyline with about your grandmother.
So I always lost. I always went up against the biggest, meanest heels in WoW. Always got so close to winning, but then would lose. So I got very frustrated. Jay got very frustrated. Was going to quit wrestling really until my grandmother came and gave me a jade piece. And that helped me kind of lift my spirits and stay in wrestling. And then when the show came back, ended up winning a match. I mean, outside of the disqualification for Riot, but won a match against Desdemona, and that was kind of my turning point. So kind of a fun storyline.
Yep, and you did have a tag team partner during season 1, Lotus. Can you tell us a little bit about your tag team?
Yes, we were the Asian Invasion, and Lotus and I did have a couple tag team matches. The one where we talked about earlier with Boom Boom and Caliente. And then we also, of course, faced the girls from the jail cell. That was a great match too. Those tag team matches, I mean, just so much fun with all those girls. And yeah, Loca dealt a lot of pain. I mean, what a fun group of girls. So yeah, got tossed around like a rag doll quite a bit. And yeah, Lotus was a big part. We both really got tossed around a lot.
Yeah, you had some great matches, and like I said, or rather that you said too, Caged Heat was an amazing match. They're great performers in the ring. I'm going to name you a couple of your opponents if you could tell us some memories that you have, and we'll start off with Caged Heat.
Oh, they were so great and so much fun, and their characters in the ring, I mean, just so great to play off of. I mean, I still talk to those girls and just what they brought to the ring, and the kind of fun and the sarcasm, and I mean, you can't ask for a better opponent because they were fantastic.
Caliente and Boom Boom.
Oh, so much fun. Also, I mean, I don't think there was anyone else that was willing to take a Hurricane Rana. So, I mean, um, Peggy probably would have done it. Riot was pretty much willing to do anything, but yeah, I mean that was a fun match. Just the back and forth between them and Lotus and myself. I mean, just I look back at those matches and I think, wow, literally the show was wow, and wow, we did a lot of crazy stuff in the ring.
And speaking of wow, a power bomb from Riot. How was it like getting one of those?
And how crazy is that? Like I did that in my first match ever. Riot was fantastic. You know, it was something where we were all learning, and just that whole learning curve and getting to do all that stuff together in the ring was really, I mean, it's just a unique experience. And she is fantastically talented, such a great woman. And, you know, I mean, never felt like, and that was the thing about our group too. It was like no one ever felt unsafe. You always felt comfortable. It was such a good group. And while, you know, there was obviously, you know, little rivalries in between, there was always, you know, comfort and safety and fun.
And then Jungle Girl, getting a splash by Jungle Girl. How is that like?
You know, that's another girl who would definitely take a Hurricane Rana. She could handle herself in the ring. We did, I don't know how many suplexes were in that match, but it was a bunch, and it was like every single kind. She tossed me around like it was nothing. So she's fantastic. And, you know, just another person who was great in the ring, and what a character and fun to be around. And, you know, that's a person we always worked to make each other look great in the ring, and she was really amazing at it.
Is there any wrestler over the years that you had looked back on, whether it's WOW or even a different, you know, women's wrestling organization, that you would have liked to have the chance to wrestle that you didn't get a chance to wrestle?
You know, I wish we would have been able to continue on from that first season kind of a little bit more smoothly, just because there were a lot of girls in there that I would have loved to have a match with. I mean, I would have loved to have a match with Lana. That would have been so much fun. She is a great character, and, you know, we would always joke around what our stories would be like. And, you know, I think at some point, if we had continued on that way, it would have happened, but she's someone who I would have loved to have a match with.
And then after you left WOW, what have you been up to?
So like a lot of the girls, we have done some acting and modeling, but right now I work for NBC Sports Bay Area. I cover the 49ers. So I've been doing that for about 6 or 7 years, and I am involved in the NFL and interviewing players, and I'm kind of on the other side. So now I'm interviewing players and going to all the games, in the press box during the games. It's been fun. I'm one of those people that I love sports. So being involved in it, and especially football, it's kind of what I did when I was younger. I didn't watch wrestling, I watched football. So another violent sport, but, you know, it was okay with my parents to watch it as opposed to doing it.
Do you have a favorite interview or memory that you can share with us from your time in football?
You know, my favorite time is when we're having those kind of off the record discussions and conversations with players and staff that kind of tell you what the backstory is about what's going on. You know, it helps me as a reporter write more honest stories when I know kind of what's happening, stuff that can't necessarily be revealed, but, you know, kind of fleshing out what happens, because there's so much that goes on behind the scenes that you don't really know about or see. And it's the same thing, you know, like with a show like WOW, there's so much that happens behind the scenes to put a show up, to put a game together, all those different things. That's kind of the part that I find the most interesting.
Now, before you went to work for football, did you have any journalism experience prior?
I actually didn't. I have always kind of had a lot of guy friends. I've always loved football. And so, you know, I'd sit around and watch a ton of football, talk to guys about it, talk to gals about it who would listen, and got told so many times, why aren't you doing something with that? You know so much more about football than your average person, male or female. And so finally I took everybody's advice and started kind of pursuing it. And that's kind of how it unraveled and kind of fell into place.
When you started writing, is there anything that you learned about yourself?
I, you know, that I think I could be a great, I love telling a story. So, whether it's verbally or on screen, on camera, or whether it's writing it down, I really love sharing experiences and telling stories. And that's really what journalism is, right? It's like whether you're dispersing information or telling a story, kind of sharing that knowledge and, getting it out there so other people can experience it too. Like I love that part about it, the sharing of ideas and experiences.
And what would you say are maybe 3 interesting facts that people might not know about you?
Um, let's see. So I kind of touched on the fact that I grew up in Washington State, but I was not born there. I was born in the Midwest in Indiana, of all places.
Ooh, where in Indiana? With McLean?
Richmond, Indiana. We were the only Asian family there. So yeah, in the hospital, we knew which parents were mine. So yeah, I was born in India. I also competed equestrian when I was in high school. So I rode horses, jumped, and all kinds of crazy stuff on horseback. And that was one of my first concussions I ever got. And then another one happened my second round with WOW. So that was kind of when I was like, it might not be a time to continue this. I might be hanging up my wrestling boots and retiring. So that's kind of what happened at the end of the second round of WOW.
Okay, and now what we're going to do is the lightning round, where I'm going to name you a couple things and you just tell me which one you prefer. So since we know you like football and wrestling, I'm not going to tell you those two, but I'm going to make you choose between baseball and basketball.
Oh, basketball. A little more action than baseball.
Monopoly or Sorry?
Oh, sorry. It's more action packed.
Gummy bears or gummy worms?
Worms if they have the stuff on the outside that makes it sour.
Dogs or cats?
Dogs, definitely. Allergic to cats. That would be bad.
Would you rather exercise at home or in a gym?
I also teach Pilates, so in the Pilates studio.
Okay. Casino or lottery tickets?
Oh, casino, interactive, playing. Yeah, for sure.
Beverly Hills 90210 or Melrose Place?
Melrose Place. There is so much more drama.
Yeah. Strawberry cheesecake or strawberry milkshake?
Cheesecake, because you got a little of the sour and the sweet.
Rain or snow?
Snow. It's prettier.
Coke or Pepsi?
Root beer. Can I go with the choice 3?
I know, I'm the same way. I always want like
okay.
a cherry flavor or vanilla, something a little different.
All right, cool.
Netflix or Hulu?
Ooh, God, I'm kind of torn. I just watched Little Fires Everywhere on Hulu, and it was so good. But Netflix has a lot of good stuff too. Now I'm going to say Hulu right now because it was Handmaid's Tale and Little Fires Everywhere.
Okay. And then the final one, Domino's Pizza or Pizza Hut?
Oh, I don't get either of those ever.
I know. I have this local pizzeria that's really good that I love.
Okay, so yes, so right down the street from me is Pitfire Pizza. I get it from there.
Okay. And if the fans wanted to contact you, how would they go about doing that?
I'm always on Instagram and Twitter. My full handle is Jennifer Lee Chan on both of them. I do have a WOW one. It's WOW Jade for Instagram for Jade. I'm mostly on the Jennifer Lee Chan one just because the football thing totally runs my life.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I had a lot of fun.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Thanks for watching, everybody. And keep it here for some more great interviews. Have a great day, everybody.